Welcome, everyone, to our event, How One Nonprofit Leader Uses AI to Reclaim 40% of Her Week Post-Award. My name is Robin. I'm an events and community manager here at Instrumentl, and my job is to develop helpful and educational events like this one to share with our Instrumentl community. And so, for those of you here today, if you are new, welcome. We are so glad that you've joined today's webinar. Instrumentl is the most loved all-in-one platform for grant prospecting and management. We help over 5,000 nonprofits and grant consultants save time in finding, applying, winning, and managing more grants. So this spring, we're evolving into something even bigger, your intelligent operating system for grants. Stay tuned for more on that later on. Let's go ahead and dive into today. So here is a quick look at where we're headed. First, we'll start with some guardrails, expectations around AI, what it's actually useful for in grants work, and just as importantly, what it's not meant to replace. Then we'll introduce the idea of an AI binder. And this is really a practical way to organize the information AI needs so it can actually give you helpful, accurate responses related to your grants and programs. After that, we'll get into the heart of the session, 5 specific ways you can use AI for post-award work. We'll walk through real examples of how AI can help with things like reporting, documentation, and managing grant requirements so it saves you time instead of creating extra work. We'll also show you how Instrumentl can help support this process, both in terms of finding and tracking grants and helping you stay organized throughout the life cycle of your funding. And then, of course, we'll open things up for a live Q&A with our grant expert, so you'll have a chance to ask your questions directly. And just as a reminder, the full recording and slides will be shared tomorrow, so feel free to stay present, listen in, drop your questions, reflections in the chat as we go, and we'll make sure to come back to them during the Q&A. And speaking of, if you need an extra reason to stay to the end of today, we have an amazing raffle opportunity today for you all. So one of you will win a 1-year subscription to Claude Pro. More on that at the end of today's event. And then if you have come to our events before, you know we love to give away free coffee. So if you complete our feedback form at the end of today's session, you'll have a chance to win tomorrow's coffee on us. Okay, with all of that out of the way, I'm going to hand it off to Kyle, who's going to introduce our speaker today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm really excited about today's session. We are joined by grant expert Susan Mernitz. Susan is a nonprofit fundraising consultant and generative AI advisor who assists organizations in increasing grant funding, expanding donor networks, and effectively utilizing AI tools. She currently holds the position of Director of Development and Technology at the Early Wealth Partnership, which is a statewide initiative that promotes California's $2.2 billion early wealth building accounts system. Susan brings senior leadership experience from AOL and Yahoo and more than 20 years of nonprofit work, including co-founding tech equity nonprofit Hack the Hood and serving as executive director of The Crucible. Her AI work involves developing acceptable use policies, creating custom tools, and coaching nonprofit teams on practical integration. She specializes in AI-driven fundraising strategies, prospect research, donor network development, and executive leadership coaching. And what I personally really love about Susan's work is that she's not just talking about AI, she's actually building with it, testing it, and helping nonprofits figure out what actually works out in the real world. So as we go through today, think of this less like a lecture and more like a working session with someone who's actually been in the trenches. So before we zoom into grants specifically, I want to take a quick detour into something a little bit more personal, because I think one of the fastest ways to understand AI and its impact is to see how it shows up in everyday life. So I'm curious, let me know in the chat if we have any gardeners in the room. Anyone who has a backyard garden, visits community garden, tries to maybe even go just to the farmer's market to get some fresh. All right, I'm seeing some responses come through. So we do have some gardeners with us today. And so just for fun, over the last year, I've been using AI in my garden. I'm not talking about anything fancy, just very practical, slightly chaotic, real life use. And so um, the main thing on the slide here I want you to notice is that I have the ChatGPT or the Claude app on my phone. I'm submitting questions and photos and I'm asking for clarification. So one of them, the first example, I had a bush bean plant and I was like, is it time to harvest them yet? I'm not sure. I took a photo, asked that question to ChatGPT, and it told me to wait a little bit longer. They're almost there, but not quite yet. Or when I had a lot of bugs that were starting to take over my lettuce plants, snapped a photo. I said, what are these bugs? How can I solve this before I lose all of my lettuce plants? And had some really helpful advice come my way thanks to ChatGPT. And then my favorite has been more about like forward thinking and planning. So I have a small container garden, and it turns out that some plants aren't very good roommates and they kind of take over other ones. And so I wanted to have a solid plan in place before planting all of those seeds and they sprouted up. And I took it a step further. I wanted the final product to kind of look more like a bouquet of flowers. So, like, how can we thoughtfully structure these plants in this bed to get a really nice output? And so, what I really like about this is that rather than just using AI to write something, I'm using it to observe, to interpret, and to make better decisions. All right, maybe you're not a gardener. Do we have any folks here that are into fashion or like vintage style or thrifting, designing their own clothes? Any fashion folks with us today, you can drop in the chat as well. So Susan, yep, we got some fashion folks here, loving thrifting, all kinds of good stuff. So Susan's taking this in a completely different direction. Susan, I love following your Substack, your LinkedIn, and seeing your updates. You've been using AI for outfits, building what you called a style granny persona. Tell us a little bit more about how this custom AI agent you built works.
Well, I kind of moved from being a fashion minimalist to someone who wanted to have more fun dressing up, but I'm only 5 feet tall. And as I would look at things to shop online, especially thrifted things, I really was ordering things that didn't fit. So I was like, I'm going to go back to Claude and I'm going to upload all of my measurements into a spreadsheet. And I'm going to talk to Claude about the clothes that I like and the brands that are fitting me. And I'm going to use it to help me get advice. So this is a picture of a really beautiful dress that I saw that was a great deal. And I was like, I'm going to put it in this tool and say, is it going to fit me? Like, could I wear it? And Claude was like, no, it's way too long for you. They cater to oversize. And it's been really, really fun and really helpful to have this tool I built that both will help me check proportions on clothing, and I also can send out and search for things. So I have really improved my wardrobe at a very affordable cost, and it's also been a lot of fun and it's felt sustainable.
I absolutely love that. That's like such a creative use of problem solving. I love both of these examples because they're really not they are productivity hacks, but they're not just productivity hacks. They're really expanding the way we think with AI. So really, if it's planning a garden or if it's putting together an outfit, in both of those examples, we're giving AI context, we're giving it data, we're giving it the insights that it needs to help us make better decisions faster and with more clarity. So in our last webinar, we talked about AI for grant writing, and we looked at this data that one of our integration partners, Virtuous, released a few weeks ago. And we looked at this data through the lens of the big picture takeaways. And those were that 92% of nonprofit organizations are using AI in some capacity, but only 7 are seeing real strategic impact. And that gap was really the headline of our conversation last week. But today I want to go a layer deeper because that same report tells us why that gap exists. And it actually turns out that the reasons map almost perfectly to the work that we're doing right now. And we're talking today about post-award grant management. So in looking at these bottom 3 numbers, 81% in the middle have no documented AI workflows. 65% are using AI reactively. So that's individuals experimenting on their own, not having a shared system that teammates and colleagues are looped in on. And then that first stat there, 47% have no governance policy at all. And so what does that actually look like in practice? Maybe someone on your team is using ChatGPT to draft a report, and we realize that that report is due in 3 days. And so our way to solve that on a tight deadline is to reactively figure out how we could use AI to solve that for us. Um, What I want to talk about, though, is what the researchers of this study, Virtuous, found about the organizations that are in that 7% that are seeing major strategic impact from AI. They share four things in common: having documented workflows, clear governance, cross-functional ownership, and consistent measurement. So, Susan, I want to bring your voice in here because you've been in the field helping nonprofits navigate through this new era and building these systems. So I think your perspective can make this really concrete. When you look at these numbers, the missing workflows, reactive usage, lack of governance, I should say, does that match what you're seeing when you're connecting with grant professionals specifically? And can you maybe give us a preview of how what we're covering today will address some of these stats?
Yeah, I was very into this study and wrote about it because it really articulated one of the issues I see, which are people are taking on AI use on their own to help themselves do their own job better, but it doesn't mean that their organization is comfortable for it, that they feel comfortable sharing what they've learned, or there are any kinds of policies. So what's great about today's webinar is that we have really open, transparent, tested prompts that are going to have outcomes that are going to be really similar every time. So there's a safety factor. Often senior managers are so afraid that AI is going to get the organization in trouble. The kind of approach that we're taking doesn't go in that direction and can give you ways to save time, but you also can share with the rest of your organization and not feel vulnerable about it.
Love that. Exactly. We're hearing, and observing similar scenarios and hearing those types of questions and concerns come up in the nonprofits that we work with every week. So, all right, let's get into the content of today's session. I'm going to hand it off to Susan to walk us through practical ways we can leverage AI in the post-award space. Susan, I'll let you take it from here.
Okay, so we all know how competitive it is right now to get funding. I mean, it's tough out there, but we're really focusing now on what happens after you get an award, and especially if you're someone whose job is to manage multiple grants. If you're like me, you have a lot more to do than you have time. So this is really about how AI can help you be more effective to set up a system where you can better plan out what's due when, make sure that you have the data that you need to know what you have to set up, how to work with colleagues more effectively to make sure you get materials from them, and then also get some support in writing the grant and editing the grant, but really a lot in those first three steps where you really have to sort all this out, and you may have multiple grants to take care of. Let's change the slide. Really importantly, before we jump into this, very much about what is AI good for and what isn't. So AI is excellent at extracting information. You upload documents that can tell you what's in it really brilliantly. Some other things that's not good for, though, are making final calls, telling you what to do, telling you what your funder needs. AI is a machine. As much as it's programmed to sound smart and intuitive, I'm sure you've all discovered as you're using it that sometimes it is not. So, you are the driver, you're the operator, and this is a support tool. Let's keep going. So three kind of rules of the road that I always follow, that I urge everyone I work with to follow, is number one, privacy is everything. Don't upload anything into an AI, either to build a tool or in a questionnaire that you wouldn't share publicly. We all know about data escaping. We don't want that to be our data. Number two, AI is a helper, not a definer. So read everything, know that you're going to have to do some editing. You may send it back for a revision. I'm going back and forth with my AIs all the time. You can train them, but it's not going to come out perfect. And that is really important to remember so that you don't release something, but then you're like, oh my God, I didn't catch that. Third thing, and this kind of helps support number two, I love asking my AI, okay, you made this statement. Where did you find that? Show me the link, show me the source. And AI is now competent enough it can actually do that. And that really lowers the risk that it's either going to pull from data sources you're not aware of, data sources you didn't give it, or data sources that are inaccurate. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so now we're going to move into you have that award and you have your materials and you're going to set up some systems using AI to help you do a good job. What are some things to think about? The first thing is make sure you know what you're going to have to do before you start. And this is not an AI problem. This is a human problem. The number of grant letters that I've gotten that do not specify like when a mid-year report is due, what the form of a final report is going to be. I have so many of those. So this is really, a good workplace practice. Let's go down into the rest of this slide because there's some more information here. So to let's go back for a minute. Okay, so just two more things here. What you really want to make sure is like what the deliverables are. What are the dates? What are the deadlines? You may need to go back to the grants officer at the foundation or the corporate funder and say, hey, could you clarify, is there a form? But trying to assemble everything you need as you're signing that contract rather than 3 months later will really help set you up for success. So just building that into your practice is a recommendation. Let's go to tip number 2. Okay, this is something that has been incredibly useful and time-saving for me. I like to make AI binders, and let's talk about what that means. That means making a folder, which I can keep on my desktop, I can upload to Google Drive, where I put all the materials that I'm going to need to deal with this grant and only this grant. AI is great at being narrow and deep, not big and broad. So I find that it's better to build a lot of little tools for each grant than to try to make one that will do everything. So in the A binder, you can keep the grant letter, you can keep the schedules, your proposal that your organization wrote, the budgets you had to send in, all of those documents that help build it. This is exactly what you want to get in there. And having it all together, even if you have a second folder for another project where you're actually repeating similar things, it doesn't matter. This is really what's going to keep you in one good place. So let's keep going and see. There are a couple of other things here we want to look at. Yes. So it's having those materials and then it's what you want to do. So what you want to do is something you have to write. That's your instructions. So we have a handout for this presentation that talks about what some of the prompts would be. And you'll be writing out your prompts, to help you, and you'll keep that text edit or that Word doc or that Google Sheet file, and then you'll have your materials. And those two things together make your binder for that project. And I tend to name my binders, Community Foundation, name of Community Foundation grant with the date. So I really can sort them. It's very clear to me what's in it. Any questions or comments here just for a minute as we kind of start to dive in? Okay, let's keep going. So there are two ways that you can keep this binder. If you're someone who's fairly new to AI, you haven't built any custom tools, you don't feel ready, the simplest thing is to have a folder and then go to your AI tool. And when you have a chance to put in attachments, upload the whole pack. Maybe you're uploading 5 or 6 things. You might have to have things in a PDF format. You might be sharing them through a link to Google Drive. It really doesn't matter. The AI will be able to read both of those formats. But you're going to upload everything, and then that instructions document you wrote, you paste that in and you click. And what you've done now is created a context or set of persistent instructions where all the successive questions you ask, the AI will have all of that material in mind. And this is really such a great way to streamline your work because the AI isn't looking at the trillion objects and the trillion options it could be picking from in its own database. It's filtering everything first through what you gave it. And that is going to save you so much time and cut down on so much error. Let's go to the next option. Option B, if you're somebody who has more success and you've done more with AI so far, or you want to experiment, I highly recommend building a custom tool. In ChatGPT, it's called a custom GPT. Claude, it's projects. But basically, you're able to go in, click on the button where you say, I want to make my own GPT, And then you get into a whole set of screens about how you configure it. There's a lot that's written about how to do this. I've written about it. We're not going to tutorial that right here. But then what you've done is create something persistent. So I have these for different clients from when I was consulting, or now for my project. I have them for different funders. So I can just easily go back into the GPT, and I have one per grant. And they're all listed, and they're all updatable and modifiable. And that is a very efficient way to do it. To do this, and then when I use the chat box, I only put in the new instructions and the new commands. So let's say I've created something with all my deliverables. I could be like, hey, it's time for me to get ready to send a note to the program officer. Generate one for me. And it knows everything because I've already created the context. Let's go to the next one.
Susan,
Next slide.
Mary asks a great question. Mary shared, I just created a custom GPT. Do I need to upload directions each time I use it?
Yeah, so the instructions that you created, that you upload to make the GPT, you don't need to ever repeat. But you do need to have instructions for new questions. So it's like, I want you to take the new materials and I want you to write a grant report, or I want you to write an email to the program officer. Those kinds of instructions you would be giving it. But that bigger framework of what you wanted to do, you've built that and it's persistent. So custom tools build persistent instructions. The AI will remember it, they don't go away. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. My favorite AI right now is Claude. I'm very into Claude. And in Claude, these tools are called projects. And they work exactly the same way. Claude is smart enough that now asks you prompting questions like, how long would you like this to be? And I'm very impressed with that. But it's really the same process for both using a full AI binder to build a project or build a custom GPT. Let's go to the next slide. So this is an example of building a project in Claude for your wildlife conservation project. And as you can see, there's a chat box on the left, but on the right, there are instructions you paste in, and then there are files. One of the things I love about this is I can upload a lot of files. So I could upload the core files from my binder, but I also upload our mission statement or our impact report, anything that I think would help make the tool smarter and more nuanced when it writes the materials. Those things aren't necessary, but there's enough space in each of these projects that you're not going to run out of space if you say, oh, I want to actually enhance this with something, but I want the tool to reference later. And then as you go on and work with it and you're uploading new things, you can also add them to the project, like an actual budget versus a projected budget, and it can save that for you. But to start, you just need the things that are in your binder, and you're putting it into an environment that looks a lot like this one. Great. So let's talk about what are the core essentials to have in your binder. I think that, again, it's 3 to 5 things. The awards letter, if there's a work plan that's either going with the grant or that the team builds after the grant is awarded, putting the work plan in is a great idea because that's deliverables for the whole organization, not just your department. What the projected and improved budget is, dates, and any templates or formats you have of grant reports. This is something you may be going back to the grant officer and being like, can I see an example of what's going to be due mid-year? Or can I have the end of year report template? And if they say, oh, you don't need a template, great. But if you do, you just want to have it. Then any things that will make the AI smarter and more nuanced for you. These are not as necessary, but I find it kind of enriches the process. And then you have to write your instructions. And that's really the most important thing. I like simple declarative sentences. I would like your job is to. Your job is to help me organize and manage all of the reporting and the deadlines for this grant. Here's what I want you to do. List out the 3 or 4 things. And there are examples of this in the handout so you can actually model. But being really simple, straightforward, keeping it relatively brief is great. I always like to put in be accurate. Okay, be accurate, stay focused. Let's keep going. These are the never do's. Don't put any kind of client or personal information in. Don't put salaries in unless it's part of a budget where you've, anonymized them. Having a salary for a program manager is fine. Having a salary for Susie Smith, not fine. Any HR data would not put it in. And anything feels confidential or sensitive. If it's something that you wouldn't share in a public board meeting, or you wouldn't like publish on your website, think about like why you need to include it. And that's really important just in terms of personal safety and professional credibility. Okay, quick minute before we keep going. Anybody have questions? Because this is really the heart of some of the workflow. Anybody have any questions we should be taking a look at?
One question that has come up is that there's obviously a bit of prep work and time investment that goes into setting something like this up. Do you see this as adding an additional layer of like complexity and slowing folks down? Or like where do you see the real benefit or the impact start to surface? Is it time
Yeah,
savings? Is it sharper thinking, more
yeah,
strategic?
yeah. I think that it would take less than an hour to pull all this, put it in a folder, and write the instructions, because you're really basing the instructions on the work you already have to do yourself. It's really these 4 or 5 things that you need help with. So I think in terms of spending that hour or less to set this up, you could be saving yourself probably 45 minutes for every task. I'm just so amazed at how I'll work with my AI. Something would have taken me 2 hours. It'll do in literally 3 minutes. And by the time I'm done editing and working with it, maybe it's been 30 minutes versus 2 hours. So, I think the issues around how it can be time saving really pay off. But I also think it takes a little bit of practice. It's like playing the piano or being a good cook. You're going to have to be willing to put a little bit in. If you're like, oh, it's never going to be worth it, this might not be the moment to start. If you're like, wow, this sounds really like it could speed things up for me, great. And because you're doing this for every grant, you get faster and more agile with each one. So the time you're going to have to invest also goes down. There is the beauty of getting skilled at repetition.
Love it. All right,
Yeah,
there's tons of great questions. We're going to come back to some of those during the Q&A section. But Susan, I'll let you
great.
pick back up here.
Yeah, great. So, very precisely, one of the things I like to do is I make the GPT or the project, and I'm like, what is your job? I will ask it, what is it your job? I want it to tell me what I told it. Show me the deliverables and the due dates you see in the documents I gave you. What are restrictions you're aware of? Those are ways just to make sure it's working. Like, did you give it the right instructions? If there are things you wanted to do that you're not seeing, go back and check. Did I actually put that in or did I leave it out? Human error. And then kind of really getting into some of the work, it's like, based on best practices, what are things that we might need that you're not seeing? Oh, I'm not seeing the template for the report. I'm not seeing a budget. Well, that's because we haven't done it yet. Sometimes their questions are not as smart as you wish. What do you think we might be asking the funder for? This is great in those early days to be like, well, does the funder have a form or what are the materials? And this is both a way to sort of make sure the tool is set up in the AI and then to start really getting some of the questions that you're going to be working with answered. Someone in the chat said something I just want to flag. I am a giant fan of going into your settings and turning off, letting the AI use your questions to help improve their training data. That's an optional thing, but I don't feel a need that my questions need to go into the training pool. And you turn that off in your personal settings, and that then is true for everything that you build versus on a case-by-case basis. So just highlighting the person in the chat who said that, thank you. Great point about privacy. Your actual data, the materials you upload are never shared, but if you allow it, they will put your questions into the hopper of trying to make the AI work better. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so these are some of the specific ways that I like to use AI that have really saved me time. The first thing is let's just build a commitments tracker. What are the deadlines and the materials that you're going to have to supply? So really going into this folder and saying, make me a list of what I'm going to need to deliver when as a grants professional. So this isn't the program team offering the workshop or serving 5,000 children. This is really what you're going to have to give back and when. And then this is something that you can publish, you can put into your materials, put into your calendar, share with other people so everyone's really aware. That's a really good usage of the award letter. Here's an example of the prompt. Make a table for me of all of the deliverables that you see in this letter and how I'm going to have to organize them for me. What are questions that I should be asking the funder? What might be missing? Here's an example of that. So this is a project. It's our raccoons. This is a great example of putting the question right into the chat box, and then having the output come. And then on the right-hand side, Claude has made us a really pretty multicolored document that we can download as a PDF, download as a Word doc, download as a markup file, publish to Google Drive. There's so many options. And you can also go back in and edit it and have it revise it if there are things you don't like, if there are things you want it to take out. It will do it very quickly, very agile. But this is something that literally it would take like a minute for it to generate. And in the next 10 to 15 minutes, you could edit it and get it to a place where you feel comfortable moving on to the next task. So I consider that really time saving. If you're having trouble reading the slides, they're all going to come to you tomorrow. And when you stare on them in your own screen, they'll be a lot more legible. I know it is also bilingual, just a lot of powerful tools. Okay, let's keep going. So then one of the things that is the bane of my life is managing reporting schedules for many projects, especially when I have so many other things to do. So I love building a reporting calendar for each project that not only is like, when is the end of year report due? When is the midterm report due? But then how am I going to have to give myself some time to project manage going back to other departments like finance programs and maybe the ED to make sure I have all the materials, and anyone who needs to sign off on it has time to sign off on it. So I love this. When you think about the day, you might have 6 or 10 grants. The fact you could then make a massive calendar for all of them that really would give you that you avoid that fire drill of, oh my God, this thing is due in 3 days. I didn't know it. Now I'm going to have to stay late. What am I going to do? How are these people ever going to get me data in time? This really, really helps back away from that kind of problem. So what I like to do is really use it for project management. It's like, okay, if this is due in 3 months, what am I going to need to do, in the next 3 months to prep? And I might coach it like, well, I want 2 weeks for programs, or I want 3 weeks for programs. Finance might need 3 weeks because they're so far behind. There's such a lag with their data. ED might need 3 days because they're really good at turning things around quickly. But really building in not just what your due date is to give it to the funder, but all those backwards checks and balances that you need can be really, really helpful. And it's also helpful by getting buy-in from people. People get really impressed when they see that you're actually planning and that you can like kind of show them a schedule, and it makes nudging them a little bit less onerous in my experience. And here's an example of that kind of project management tool. I apologize, but it's really hard to see. But basically, it's really backing into each element you're going to need, how you're going to get it, what the time frames could be. And someone in the chat is saying program officers need guidance. I love that. The fact these documents are so clean and so professional looking, in my experience, makes people more eager to follow them and to support them because you do look like you have your act together so well. And yes, a lot of these tools do connect to things like Asana or Trello, or you can connect it to your own Kanban documents in Google Drive. So if you're someone using multiple systems, a lot of these tools will connect and you can flow back and forth if you want to. Or you can turn them off and not do that. Let's keep going. So this is one that I'm very fond of because writing a grant report may not be that hard, but gathering all the materials can be a lot of work. So, often I'm going to have to go back to finance. I want you to show me what are the actuals, and finance doesn't like that. They might have they might have like the real-time budget for the whole company. Now they're going to have to break it out for this specific grant. So, making sure that you are able to get that, making sure that programs has any kind of data, as well as stories. A lot of funders want to know about, was there any media about this? Give me the links to the media. What did your socials say? So really just being able to have a good sense of like what you're going to have to gather and then who you're going to get it from, then assembling all that in an equivalent of your binder. This is like your grant report folder. And this is very much something you'd be doing anyway, whether you're using AI or not. But the AI can help you be more systematic about organizing it and help with the deadlines in terms of like when you need to have it. And then ultimately, you're going to use all that to draft a report. So first here, the first part is really getting the materials together, getting it in a folder or a place where you know where they all are. Let's keep going. But then, let's say you've got all that. So now you want to go back to your binder and say, what do you think I need to complete this report? Kind of what I was saying anecdotally, you want the AI to make you that list. And who's the source? Where is it coming from? This is again where you're mapping what you need. And AI is speeding up the way that you can do that. Let's keep going to the next slide. So then once you have all the materials, you can say to it, using all the data I've uploaded. This is where you'd be adding all the new information because it will need the new information to do this update. Using all this draft a report using the funder's required section. So if there's a template that the funder has given you, you'd upload it as a Word file or PDF. You would tell AI to flag sections that looked incomplete or needed more data. So you're really making a straw man or an outline, very much the way you might without AI, but the AI really automates importing all the data and the stories into each section. So that's very, very good. There's a question someone has about tone and voice. I would love to get into that in the Q&A because I have a lot of advice about that. But right now, thinking about just assembly, these are really AI automation tools where it's just so much more quickly organizing and pulling together what you have than you would do at your own. So this outcome where here you've said, what's incomplete? What do we need? This is a great thing to like wave into your CFO's face and be like, hey, we really need that budget data. It's the big thing that's missing for us to be able to turn this report in on time. And again, the quickness with which the AI can like build this kind of report can be just so helpful and save you so much time. This is one of my favorites because I hate this task. How is the grant trending in spending, projections versus actuals? Is your grant actually underspending because you got started a month later? Is your grant overspending because you had to hire more field canvassers or workers than you expected? This is something the funder is going to really want to see, but it can be really hard to get. So I love just putting projecteds in here. So it's like, here's what I submitted, here's what we're projecting, and then, what's it looking like? And taking this kind of thing back to your finance people, making an appointment to go over it can just really save a lot of pain. And then when you have to turn the report into the funder is going to be so happy. So here's the kind of prompt I use. I've uploaded the budget and our actuals. What's the variance? Are we 10% under or over? What are we going to have to explain? This is just such helpful preparation to then go back to your team and get the actual answers. The AI can't supply the answers, but it can really speed up these tools where you can then fill in your data. So here's an example of a budget. Strongly urge you to look at this when you get the slides tomorrow. I know you're probably squinting at it right now. I am. But the other thing this does is this diffuses friction between you and other people in your organization. The fact you can present these kinds of materials means they can look at the materials and have feelings about them versus having feelings about you. And I find that these deadlines can become so tense, really matters. Okay, let's go a little more quickly. So pretty obvious here, just making sure we document who owes what, and again, sending them back out. Let's keep going. Example of that. And again, I'm just going to move over that a little quickly because I want to make sure we have time to sort of just recap. So let's say you're sitting here, you like this, you're going to get these slides tomorrow. What are the things you're going to do? You're going to make an AI binder. You're going to run your award letter through AI and get a table of deliverables. You're going to build a backward reporting calendar that has the cushion of when you need things from other people, as well as when the dates are for the funder. And then you're going to make a here's what we're missing list. And you could do all this and then update it or work with it, over the coming months, but just kind of do this as even a practice run. Okay, I think we're pretty close to moving on to the next part of this. Let's keep going, and I'm going to turn it back to Kyle.
Thank you, Susan. I am always so inspired by your creativity and ability to solve problems with really helpful tools. We're going to give Susan a moment to grab some water before we jump to our Q&A session. And we'll take a quick detour for those of you maybe who are at an Instrumentl session for the first time, just to let you know a little bit about what we've been up to. And so Robin shared earlier today, we like to think of Instrumentl as a grants operating system, something that can truly support you across the full life cycle. So at the top of the funnel, we have a database of 32,000 plus active funding opportunities. We match you with those opportunities. We have a lovely tracker that helps you keep everything in your grant pipeline organized so that your organization has clarity on awards that you're managing or grants that you're applying to. Speaking of post-award specifically, though, one of my favorite features, when we released this about a year ago, it's called the Award Assistant. And this is focused on building out that work plan for you. And so the Award Assistant is AI powered. There are multiple agents. We're leveraging multiple language learning models based on each of their unique strengths. And our collaboration with these tools, we have kind of like a higher tier of service to where they're not allowed to train on your organization's data. And so that security piece is kind of built into the platform. But the Award Assistant, you will be able to take, that award letter, that grant agreement, any emails, and extract that information and turn it into a format that is ready to implement for your team. And so to kind of go a layer deeper, first, we're going to use AI-powered extraction to pull key details straight from your award documents and other materials so you can upload things like email communication, notice of award, any of those types of resources, and we'll pull that information out. We're going to then take it a step further. Glad to hear you're loving the Award Assistant feature, Laura. It's truly one of my favorite recent AI features. We take it a step further, though. Instrumentl is connected to external tools and integrations that you're using. And so if you have the calendar integration set up, it's going to sync, pull those funder deadlines, allow you to review them, create them as tasks in your Instrumentl account, and then push them out to your team's external calendars so that it's on the calendar and you're not having to manually create those. Then we take it a step further and we also create shareable summaries. These are really nice documents. The output will be in the same format. So as your team gets familiar with this grant launch brief or summary, your program team has something they can look at. Your finance team has something they can reference. Leadership is looped in. Everyone has this same reference document that has all the critical information that you'll need to be aware of for managing this award. So if I hop over to my account, this is what the feature looks like. So we're at this home page where we can upload all of our award documents. We'll see those on the left here. And then we can ask the AI to begin the analysis. And so for those of you that are thinking, I don't know if I have time to build a custom GPT, or if you're hoping to have something more fully integrated into your existing grants data, if you're on Instrumentl, this makes it quite a bit easier. So it'll take about a minute or two. It's going to parse these documents. And when it's done, over on the left, we'll see citations to know where the AI has found this information, which document and which page. And we've just extracted all of that really important information. So outcomes, then we can get into reports, which is the second tab here. You'll notice that there are 24 monthly financial reports due, and you'll see those stacked here. I could edit, assign it to maybe the person on my finance team to get those triaged out. Quarterly progress reports, tons of tasks it's creating. It's going to push them back to my Instrumentl account and then further into my day-to-day calendar so I have visibility there. Then we get into financials. It's pulling a lot of this information out for us as well. Then we get into some legal terms. Those are referenced here for you to review. And then it's going to pull out the funder contacts and push that information back into your Instrumentl account. So it's working kind of like a CRM tool for you there as well. Once you've verified everything and if it looks good, you can click review and you can confirm and update the award, and it's pushing that data back into my tracker. Your Instrumentl tracker is kind of like a spreadsheet where it's keeping all of your grants organized. And so now in the background, I think there were like more than 50 tasks that are going to show up on my external calendar over the next 2 years. So we have visibility on those. And here are those award summaries. There's a full summary and then there's a concise version, which typically is more helpful for finance or program folks. So they have a snapshot of what they need to know when it comes time to review this award. So this has been around for about a year, and then coming soon, we are really excited in a few weeks to hopefully address a piece of post-award work that touches every restricted grant, and that's knowing exactly where your organization's spend stands. Susan mentioned a great way to prompt GPT or Claude to allow you to reconcile budget versus actuals to pull that data in, but this new feature we're launching soon will connect directly with your existing accounting software. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been surveying users, and some of you may have contributed to this, and we've found so far that only 18% of organizations can answer a budget question in minutes. And when a program manager asks, do we have enough left to spend in this grant? 30% of nonprofits need more than a day or aren't sure the answer to that question. So there's a lot of line by line reconciliation process happening, and getting those answers takes days. And so I'd say at Instrumentl, we have always been obsessed with solving problems that get in the way of nonprofits amplifying their impact. And so this new feature called Instrumentl Spend Down is going to provide real-time visibility into grant spend without the email chains or the spreadsheet. So we'll again leverage AI to take that funder-approved budget, we'll parse it into a format that's editable, intuitive, and ready to sync with your accounting system. Some of our early testers, nonprofits, are already loving the ability to edit those expenses before making it final in your Instrumentl account. And then we're launching first integrations with Sage and QuickBooks. We have some additional integrations coming soon, but in just a few clicks, you can translate that funder approved budget category into those grant ledger codes in your accounting software, and Instrumentl will keep everything in sync for you. So we're also going to take it a step further to make it easy to visualize what's allocated versus what's posted. So you'll have clarity on planned expenses before they actually hit the books. And one of my favorite parts of this is that you'll be able to export your budget versus actuals over custom time windows. This is really going to be a game changer when it comes to staying compliant, especially with some of the shifts going on in the landscape in the grant space. So our goal is that Instrumentl Spin Down is really going to modernize this aspect of post-award management. It's going to connect your funder approved budgets to your accounting source of truth and give you that real-time visibility in answering, can I spend this type question? So lots more to come here. But for organizations that are thinking, wow, award assistant sounds like it would take a lot of the lift off of our plate, or maybe it takes forever for us to get clarity on grant spend. We're opening this up today. Our webinars this month, we have a special offer just for folks that are here that lasts through the end of March. For folks that are interested in being the first cohort of organizations to access Instrumentl Spin Down. So that includes the full lifecycle tools at our current advanced price with $1,000 savings built in through the end of this month. So again, that offer includes our real-time spin down feature that we're launching soon, reporting, financial integrations, budget tracking, and then you'll also get full access to the rest of the platform, including the database, the AI grant matching tool, AI apply grant writer, and that AI award assistant that I talked about earlier. And so it really gives you a full end-to-end grant lifecycle experience that is truly backed by the best data in the industry with AI thoughtfully embedded at each step. So if you're thinking about strengthening your post-award systems, we have a special link just for you all. Would love for you to grab time with one of our grant specialists to explore what this could look like for your organization. We'll walk you through your tech setup, get you set up on an account, can set you up with a trial, and would just love to allow you to experience the difference that this could make for your organization. So I do want to give a moment, just drop that link in the chat. Once you click on that link, it's going to take you to a page where you can grab a convenient time over the next few days to connect with someone on our team. So maybe tomorrow, Friday at 9:30 a.m. Sounds good for me. There are just a couple of questions here to help us prepare for that call. Your name, your email. I love the part of this form that lets you invite additional guests. So if you want to bring your finance person to get them on board to say like, hey, will this work with our QuickBooks integration? You can invite them to that call as well. So that link is in the chat. Would love to have you schedule time with some of our team to see what this new world of post-award management could look like for your organization. Before we hop to the Q&A portion, of course, I know y'all are waiting to hear about the raffle. One of you will win a 1-year subscription to Claude Pro. Lately, I share with Susan that it's one of my favorite tools to use. And here's the good news. Everyone that's still here live is automatically entered into this raffle. So we'll be announcing the winner next week, and we'll reach out directly via email. On that note, Susan, are we ready to dive into some audience questions? All right, we've had so many good questions today. You all have been so engaged with us. Morgan asked a great question. How do you ensure that AI uses your tone of voice, refrains from sounding like AI when drafting reports with AI?
So this is one of my favorite questions. Once you've created your AI binder and built a GPT, you can enhance it by uploading other things. I actually create custom tone and voice writing instructions that I upload to my GPT. So I have one for my blog posts. I have one for professional grant writing, for the early wealth project that my ED and I worked on together. And basically, I can use other writing I've done, upload it to AI, say, tell me about what the voice is here, or I can instruct it. Our voice is professional but friendly. We don't use words like delve, hate that word. But you can literally create like an additional file based on either things you want to just tell it or based on prior samples, and upload that and have it follow that as mandatory writing guidelines. That has worked really well for me in terms of grant writing, but I've also used it for grant reporting to make sure that the voice and the tone match my organization's voice and style.
Love it. All right, another great question. Thanks for answering and tackling that one, Susan. Krista asks, what are some things you would put in the instructions when building out a Claude project or custom chat GPT?
Yeah, I would say here are the things it's your job to do. help me review and organize all of the materials I've uploaded so that I can work with them more effectively. Specifically, I'd like you to analyze and extract all the schedules, all the dates, all the requirements, compare that to the project plan and the budget to flag any inconsistencies or problems you see that might affect compliance or reporting. Build a schedule, like all the things you're going to ask us to do later. I basically list them as tasks you want it to do so it knows that's part of its job. It's not going to be doing them. The instructions are kind of like a job description. It's like when you hire someone, this is your job. You're telling this Project GPT, this is your job, these are your job functions. So really just listing them out as bullets works really well. Great example right here.
Yeah, I have our our Central Park Elderly Raccoons project pulled up, and you can just kind of see here, Krista, some of the things that Susan mentioned. So here's your role and your context. When connecting with our programs team, use plain action-oriented language, focus on deliverables, any kind of guidance or instructions that you want to give to coach it about the audiences that you're working with. When we're working with external funder communication, really the sky's the limit here, as well when you're setting those
The
instructions
thing
up.
that's great about this is you're looking at a very sophisticated, fully built out set of instructions written by someone who's very experienced. If you're a beginner, literally writing down a paragraph about what the role and what the job is with like 8 bullets is a great place to start. And when I've had GPTs for a while, I'll go back in and I'll update them. All my GPTs have writing style guides now. I didn't know I could do that in the beginning. So you can write something very simple and have it work. And then if you want to make it more rich later, you can totally go back and edit it.
Great question, Terry. Unfortunately, due to the length of the instructions, it won't let me post it in the chat, but I'll make sure we can get it into some of the follow-up we send to you. I'll put it in the slide notes, or have some way to share that out. Another question. Sarah asks, how do you prevent confidential data from being imported into binders when AI is pulling from the grant documents you provide?
I guess I'm curious what kind of confidential data you would be providing. Like, what do you mean by confidential? Because in my experience, we're not necessarily putting people's names of salary with their salaries. We're not necessarily providing individual client data. So, I think that you don't want to be putting confidential data in. There's a difference between confidential and not publicly circulated. So, if it's something you'd share with your board, if it's something that you would share with a funder that follows the kind of guidelines we're describing, I think that that's a different use case. You also have the option to delete a question. So if you are uploading data and working with AI and you have a project and you're like, I think I just want to delete this question after I get the answer, you can do that. It won't go into helping to cumulatively enhance it, but it is something that if you want to be sure like this isn't lingering, you could delete that individual prompt and the outcome that you got. So that's always a good thing to know.
All right, we are unfortunately at time. So I do want to, before folks hop out, when you exit the session, you will see a survey form pop up. Some questions, we'd love to have you answer that. That's how you can get into the raffle for coffee. There's also a question on there that asks if you would like to receive a follow-up email from Susan, and she can share her LinkedIn. You can follow along her Substack to see what she's up to. And then that'll be a way that, she can get in touch with you to share additional resources if you have questions there. I want to say thank you to Susan. Do you have any parting words? Was it a burning question you saw that you wanted to answer that you didn't have time to?
Think of this as something that is really going to help not only with your organization's future, but with your future. AI is here to stay, and the more we can master it and understand it, the stronger we're going to be in both our work and our lives. And that doesn't mean there aren't sensitive issues, but you want to be a knowledgeable consumer.
All right. Well, we thank you all for taking time to invest with us to do a bit of learning today. We're excited about kicking off more sessions. The end of the month, April, or we're in March. March 30th, we're hosting a panel discussion on the shadow work that a lot of folks in the grant space take part in, the hidden workarounds, the working late hours. So we've been doing a little bit of research, surveying folks, and we're going to be releasing that study. It's going to be really informative. So be on the lookout for that event. And then into April, more events coming your way. We always enjoy having you with us. So thank you so much for joining today. And thank you so much, Susan, for your expertise and sharing with
Absolutely.
us. Hope you'll have a great rest of your week and hope to see you again soon. Thanks, y'all.
Okay, that was great.
All right.
All right,
Take care, everyone. Susan, I'll be in touch with you soon. Thanks so
great.
much.
Talk to you
Everyone,
soon.
have a great
Bye-bye.
rest of your week. Bye, everyone.